Realtor DeAndra Hayes is suing her former tenant for rent and cleaning fees. Defendant Tiffany Sumlin says her deposit covered any damage. Now it's Joe time.
Ms. Hayes, you are suing a former tenant, Ms. Sumlin.
Yes, sir.
So that's the result of an early breaking of the lease that was in effect for the possession and keeping of unauthorized pets on the premises, causing excessive damage above and beyond wear and tear, ordinary wear and tear. And the defense, basically, Ms. Sumlin, is to the effect that the plaintiff kept the security deposit and that ought to suffice, and you were led to believe you might have pets on the premises. So let's see where we go with this. Ms. Hayes, you first, please, ma'am.
Your Honor, I had a property for lease at the end of 2011. The defendant located my property through her realtor. We agreed to a 13-month lease commencing on December 18th. On January 17th, I was contacted by the insurance agent, and they were unable to take pictures. I was changing the policy to a rental dwelling. They were unable to take pictures.
That's when you discovered the problem.
Correct. Well, that it might be a problem. Correct. So I immediately contacted...
We wouldn't be here if it wasn't a problem.
Well, they were a little afraid to enter the rear of the property because they saw the feces from the dog.
Yeah, they didn't want to step on anything and smear it in, they told you, apparently. But anyway, go right ahead.
So I immediately contacted the defendant and asked, was there a dog on the property? And she's like, no, absolutely not. We don't have a dog. I was like, well, possibly they went to the wrong house. So I had someone to check on the property at that time. About 5 days later, I was notified that she indeed had a dog on the property. So I contacted her again, and she said, well, sometimes my boyfriend has his dog over there, and that her realtor had told her that, she had written authorization, she could have a pet. And I told her that we didn't have written authorization. Just 5 days prior, she stated that she didn't have a dog, and that she needed to immediately remove the dog from the premises. And then I assessed her a fine. She didn't pay that fine, and then on February 22nd, I received a text message from her asking to come to a written agreement on the pets, because her mom had a pet and her sister had a pet, and her kids missed her dog's pet. I told her that we couldn't come to a written agreement. There were several dogs coming at several times. She could easily dispute that. And when I was notified that she had a pet, she was being negligent. They were leaving the fence open while they were taking the trash out. The dog was just roaming. So I refused to come to an agreement as far as the pet was concerned. On the 28th, I received a handwritten letter saying that she intended to vacate the property at some point, but at the latest by March 31st. At that point, I notified her that I received her letter and intent to default on the lease. She made another payment a partial payment on March 3rd. Sent her a letter saying that she hadn't paid any of the fees.
I believe that was supposed to go, well, it seems that was accepted with reservation, that part payment. Or did you even process it?
I processed that part of the payment, correct.
That's the one with reservation. Go right ahead, please. And
then on March 17th, I went down to inspect the property and put some signs in the yard to get it back on the market, and noticed some of the yard damage, some of the interior damage. On March 30th, I tried to reach the tenant to make sure she was vacating the property on the 31st. Phone number had been changed. Couldn't reach her. Didn't hear from her any further from that point. She didn't turn any keys, didn't give any garage access. So that was the last contact I had with Tiffany. Once we went down there around April 3rd to see if she had actually left the property, we noticed all the damage. She had left abandoned property, mattresses, chairs, and tables. The disposal wasn't working. She had even gone and installed a satellite, putting holes through the rooms and through the roof, and the yard was not kept. The dog had dug up holes and destroyed.
I believe there's a provision, well, not believe, but it appears there's provision in the lease about the tenant being responsible for the upkeep of the yard and such
Correct.
Other things.
Yes, sir.
Keep going, please, ma'am.
And the other damage was just, the property just wasn't kept. The wall was filthy, the carpet was filthy, she left dishes, she left fruit and vegetables in the drawers. So, here we are.
You just kind of got left out of it. She did a good job, but you know, when your wife's doing all right, let them go. It makes them feel better later on. Okay. Okay. Can you stand up next to her? Hey, Mr. and Mrs. situation, I try to promote that. Ma'am, what do you have to say about this relative to your defense?
Okay, I did move in December. I moved in the assumption that I could have a dog, but I didn't have a dog per se as I moved in. My dog had just passed away.
You imply, it would appear, that the dogs that were offensive were not your dogs, but those of boyfriend and or relatives.
Yeah. Well, the only dog that was there was only one.
Defense?
It was only one dog that came. My family never came down because he
That's
brought the
your
dog.
boyfriend's dog?
Yes. So when he came over in December, he brought it over a total of 3 times. He came over for Christmas.
All of these holes I'm looking at in the ground, this
She
one
did
dog
that the very
did?
first time. Yeah, the very first day over there. Yeah, she did. I said, do a apartment.
You live there, then.
So, yeah, she dug holes all around the front patio. Is where she put the hose at the first day she was there.
We'll be right back with Judge Joe Brown.
I was like, there's no one at my house. She was like, well, they're saying the dog is there. I'm like, no, there's no dog there. I'm on my way to the house. There's nobody there. My kids is with me. And she goes, well, I have to assume that the dog is there. They're telling me the dog is there. It's there.
And later today,
my income